Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this edgy braided wirework bracelet, and this is what it looks like. So what we have is a 5-strand braid going all the way across, all the way around here, and then I've added these beads along the edges to add a bit of interest, so colour in this case because there's a contrast between the colour of the wire and the beads, but then also because these are faceted bicones that add a beautiful sparkle to the piece. So this is what it looks like, and it can look a little something like this on. So you get a really nice effect there with the braid going all the way around, and then that extra interest from the beads as well. So if you want to learn how to make this bracelet with a nice braided technique, then keep watching. And then these are the materials that I'm going to be using here for mine. Now first of all we need the wire. This is a regular round copper wire and it's a 0.8mm. We're going to use this for the whole braid. And then here I have the beads that I'm using. These are 4mm bicones and they have this lovely blue metallic coating to them. They really sparkle nicely on the piece. You could use something like these, or you could also use another size and shape of bead. For instance, rounds or rondelles would work really nicely as well. And then to finish it off with, I'm using these ribbon ends here. They're going to work perfectly with the findings as well. So I've got my extender chain, my lobster claw clasp, and then obviously the jump rings to put it together. So let's get all the materials that we want to use ready and let's get started. So we then need to cut some lengths of our wire here so we can start braiding with them. And what I have is 5 lengths of about 40 centimeters each, and also make sure that they're nice and straight so they don't have any kinks in them. Then what I did as well was towards one end here, I made sure they're all even. Then I put some electrical tape around them, making sure they line flat next to each other here. And then I had a little bit of the end sticking out there, then bent back over the tape here. And that's going to act as a stopper. So when we start braiding, we can't just pull the wire through there. So this is now ready to start braiding with. So then to start here, I take my lengths of wire with the tape ready, and then I want to start braiding here. And what I want to do first of all is make a section of the braid before I start adding in any beads as well. First of all, so we can cut it down if we need to, but also get into the rhythm of making the braid so we can get it nice and even. What I'm going to do first of all is separate them out a little bit. So I'm going to end up having 2 lengths towards one side and 3 towards the other. It's just as a starting point. So it looks like that there. And obviously it's a 3 furthest towards one side, out towards that. And it doesn't matter which side because the one with 3 in it is just the side we're going to be starting from. So you could also start from the other side, it doesn't matter. So this is just basically a regular braid, it's just we're working with wire instead. So I'm going to start on the side here where I have the 3 wires, and I'm going to take the outer one, and then I'm going to go over the next one, and then bring it under the one after that, and working my way in towards the middle. Just like this, and then this becomes a new middle piece, and then bring it over towards the other side there. So also a reason why I'm just starting with braiding here before adding beads in is because likely the beginning part is going to look a bit messy because we need to get into the rhythm of it first, and obviously we're starting from a narrow point here. So now we have the 3 wires on the opposite side, so I know I need to start from there and then take the outer one, bring it over the next one and under the one after that and into the middle, over towards the opposite side. So that now swaps place as well, and we'll basically just continue doing this. So take the outer one from the side with 3 in, go over and under and into the middle, over to the opposite side. And what I like to do as well as I'm working with wire here, braiding, as I'm moving my wire all the time, I keep running it through my hands and my fingers here. It warms it up but also smooths it out, because as we go, as we're working with it here, it's also going to form according to your fingers because obviously you get warm hands. And then as I'm moving it to go over and under, so I just run it through my hands and fingers to then smooth that back out, just obviously to avoid that ending up in the braid. And just keep going like this for a little bit, just so we have enough section here until we're then also happy with the kind of rhythm and technique and how it's going to start looking before we then add in any beads. So I kept braiding a little bit here, and I feel like I'm about ready to start adding in beads. But what I also just want to mention that I like to do as I'm making braids with wire is, as I go, to help control the braid here and try and keep it nice and even, I also like to push a little bit on the side. So I braid a little bit and then I push a bit on the side to make sure it gets nice and even, and also to help control the width here. So, because what will happen when you braid, it tends to want to get wider, so to help control the width, just push it a bit in like that and then keep braiding and keep going like that. It also helps, like I said, make it a little bit more consistent throughout. So then to add my beads as well, this is where I'm going to bring in obviously my little bicones there. You can use whatever beads you want to, and then I like to add them in as I go. So now the next movement I'm going to do is the outer one here on the side with 3, but before I start moving it, I'm going to take my bead and add it onto that length right at the end there and let it drop all the way down. I want to make sure to add it before we move it, because otherwise you won't be able to get the bead in there. And then we just basically want to continue now the exact same technique and movements. So take the outer one, bring it over and under and into the middle, and then it's going to bring that curve in and basically have the beads sit right in that little corner, you could say, of the braid, and fit just perfectly, nestle in almost. So it's just going to be sitting on the outer curves there instead of having them plain. And then the exact same thing on the other side. Obviously now that has 3, so I just want to add a bead onto the outer one before I move it and let it drop all the way down here. And then otherwise same principle, bring that over and under into the middle, making sure the bead stays in that little corner and doesn't slip over one of the other wires, and then bring that over to the other side. And you can see that just, the bead came out a little bit. Want to make sure it's pushed all the way down and then bring it over. So we really want it to sit right in that almost little space and that little gap in there. So it's going to give that nice embellishment on the outer edge all the way along the braid. And you basically just want to keep going like this. So again, now it's the opposite side. Add a bead to the outer one before bringing it in. And you keep building it like that. Again, you can still control the width as well, like I showed you before, by help pushing it a little bit, just to try and keep it nice and consistent throughout. So I now reached the length that I want for mine here with all the beads from one end, and I reach down to the other end here, and obviously you just want to make sure that you have the length that you want with your beaded section, because what you also got to take account for is we're just going to add a little bit more braid to the end here without the beads, but then also whatever clasp you want to add is going to add length to the piece as well. But then what I want to do is finish this off like I just said, in basically the same way as we started out. So make a little section of the braid without the beads on, just to have that to be able to finish it off nicely. So that just means I continue here with the braid. I take the outer one from the side with 3 lengths, and then bring it over the next one and under the one after that, and into the middle, and over to the other side here. So we then have 3 on the opposite side. And again, just work with your braid as you go. And then again, I take the other side, because that's now got 3, and bring that over and under, and then into the middle. And then we'll keep swapping from side to side again like this. So just do this for a little bit, just so we have that little section here we can then use to finish it off with. So then to finish off the braid here, we need to get the ends ready, so we can then use our ribbon ends to secure it in place and obviously attach our findings to that. So what we need to do is use this braided section on the end. It's going to be the same thing on both ends. I'm just going to show you on here. Then I'm going to take my flush cutters or wire cutters, and what we want to do first of all is get rid of all the excess. So we need to cut the end down. So I'm just going to choose a place where I have enough left of the braid here without the beads to go inside the ribbon end, so you can kind of measure against it, but also we don't need to be too long. So something a bit like there. And then we just need to cut them all off, all the way across, in basically a straight line. Something like that. So there we go, that's the end. And then I also want to just get this ready, because what I then like to do is just bend the ends of the wire. So the outer ones here, I'm going to grab hold of just a couple of millimeters, and then I'm going to bend this inwards. So just grabbing hold of that and bending it inwards there. Same thing with the other side. And I like to do this just to give the piece a bit more to grab onto, because what I'm going to be doing is adding glue to the inside of this, and it's going to be nice and secure, but I prefer to just put a little bit of resistance, you could say, so the glue is really going to grab onto it. Otherwise you might just be able to pull the wires out, at least over time. and then I'm going to grab the next ones and kind of make sure I bend them inwards if I need to, just so they don't end up sticking out of the side of the ribbon end. So just something a bit like that will do fine. Just going to grab the last one here, just so it's all as even as possible. So there we go, and then you can just check that the ribbon end is going to fit nicely onto that end, and it's going to sit there. Then we need to get a glue out as well, and I'm using this E6000 glue here because it's nice and strong and it dries clear as well. And I'm just going to be applying it with a toothpick, so obviously you can get quite a bit of control. And I'm just going to grab a little bit onto it here. We don't need too much because it's just inside the ribbon end, and anything excess really is just going to come spilling out as we clamp it down. But I'm going to put it inside the ribbon end, up and down the sides of it. Make sure it kind of covers all over. And then whatever excess you feel there is, just take it back off there, and I like to add that onto the end of the braid, just to get it right in there between the wires. So once we then bond the two pieces together, they're really going to grab onto each other and bond together nicely and securely. Just a bit on the other side as well. Get them right in between all the nooks and crannies, like that. And then take the ribbon end, place it on the end. Then I'm going to take my flat nose and like to hold the piece here in my hand, and then a finger on each side of it. So kind of hold it steady while I then clamp it down. And I go in from one side and gradually clamp it a bit more, and then go back and forth until I feel like it's really close to be all the way down. But before I then do it completely, I like to just take my fingers off and double check that it stays in the middle, because it can move a bit as we're doing it. And then if I'm still happy with it, I'm going to go in and clamp it the last bit all the way, so it's going to get really nice and secure. And also I always go in from the sides just to close them up nicely. And there we go. And then obviously you just want to sit that and leave the glue to dry, but do that on the other end as well, and then we use these loops here in the ribbon ends to attach whatever findings you want to use as well. So then as the final thing to do here, so obviously we can start wearing it after we finish off the ends, is to shape it. So what we're going to do is you can either take this and fold it around so then that is the size and shape you want it to be, or you can just use your hands and fingers. So what I like to do is go in from one place and then gradually put a curve into it, going from side to side. Just like this, working my way towards getting the shape that I want. You don't want to just go into one place and make a bend, because that's going to put it out of shape. But we need this kind of, I prefer oval shapes for my bracelets. I find this sit a bit better. So obviously the ends here are going to end up being brought together, so we're going to use a clasp as well. So just keep going from side to side. So here's then the final bracelet after I shaped it, and obviously it's ready to wear with the clasp as well, and it looks like that. So you get a really nice effect with the braid, especially there in the middle, and then you have the beads and the edges that adds that extra colour, and obviously in this case sparkle as well. That all depends what beads you use, but it looks like that. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial for this bracelet here, and thank you very much for watching.